All right, guys, welcome back. In this lesson, I'm going to go over the vector variable. Okay. As you can see here, I already have it set up. And the first thing I'm going to start with is to set, as you know, for each variable you create an Unreal Engine. Like I said, as if you go here, you see the different type of variables you can create or use um, in your projects, right? So we got a whole list here. But whenever you create a variable, you will have a set and you will have a get part of variable. If you listen to my other videos, I also explain you can use these two independently from each other. So you can use the get vector variable that I have here and use it independently by setting the value down here. And you can use the set vector variable and plug it directly into anything you want for your project. Okay. But now when it comes to vectors, I'm going to do this a little differently. One of the important things to realize when it comes to vectors and using the vector variable is that it's three directions specifically that the vector variable deals with. Okay. That is the x-axis, the y-axis, and the z-axis. Now, I set up the project for this tutorial. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit run briefly just to show you guys something here. Okay. So as you can see what I did here above the mannequin, I created a directional arrow. So in real time, while you're in the world, you're either going in the X direction, you're either going in the Y direction, or you're going in the Z direction. Okay. Now the X direction is forward and backwards in the world, in this open environment, is the X axis. If you want to go left and right in this world, in this open world, you'll be going on the Y axis. Okay. Now, if you want to jump up or down or climb something, you're going to be going on the Z axis, which is up or down. Okay. And I'll come back to this, but I just wanted to show you that. All right. Now, here, what I did, we're going to use the set vector variable. Okay. And what I did was I had to communicate to the character, which is the object you just saw, the mannequin. Okay, I had to communicate with it, and I had to get some basic movements from that mannequin in real time. So what I did was go to get player character. I'll show you. Get player character. Now, from get player character, think of this like a suitcase, okay? In the get player character, you can unpack the direction, you can unpack the velocity, and all the different values, all the different properties related to the mannequin, okay? So what I'm going to do here, as you can see, I already set it up for you guys here, but I'm going to do it in real time. So what I'm going to look for specifically is the capsule. It's the capsule component. All right. Now I want to get the capsule component, which controls the axis movement, the x-axis, the y-axis, and the z-axis, which I showed you guys. All right. So the capsule component for the character controls the direction. All right, and this is important because we're going to plug the value, the X, Y, Z values of this capsule component into the vector variable that I created here. Okay. As you can see, I already did it here. Let me go ahead and delete that. All right, so that's pretty much what I did. Now, from the capsule component, I got the world location. Now, I'll go back to what happened, what I set up. Remember, you're in the open world. In this open world, you can go 3 directions. You can go, again, on the x-axis, the y-axis, and the z-axis. They all represent a direction in this world, in this open world. Now, what I did was I got the world location of the capsule from the character, and I plugged it in to my variable. So now I'm going to get a value from this. Whatever the world location is of this character, it is now I plugged it into my variable, my vector set variable. So now my vector set variable is going to have the value of the world location. And this is just an example. You can use anything to plug into your variable, your vector variable. Okay. But I just, for this example, use the world location. Okay. Because I wanted to track the movements and the direction of the character or the mannequin, if you will. Okay. So I plugged the return value. That's going to be the new value for my set variable. All right. And from there, I just plugged it into the text block object that I had set up here. And it's going to display the X, Y, and Z axis from the world location of the capsule related to the character. Okay. Now, I'll show you. Let me press play. Now, guys, the way I set it up, all right, in the top left corner, you got the x-axis, the y-axis, and the z-axis, all right? As you can see, they have their values. The x is 0, the y is 0, and the z is 92.15. All right, now when I move in the specified direction, whether it's x, y, or z, you're going to see the number in the corner, the top left corner, change in real time. All right. And it's what it's doing is it's monitoring the direction, the location in the world, in this world space that your object is moving. Okay. So for instance, I'm going to go on the y-axis. I'm going to move left or right and look at the top left corner and look at the y value change. Hold on. Let me get back. All right, so start over. Yeah, it's kind of tricky. Hold on, let me go back. Start over. All right, so I'm going to go on the y-axis and look at the top left corner at the y value. You see how it's updating? Now I'm going left on the y-axis. That's the negative. Okay. Now I'm going right on the y. And as you can see, the number is going back down until it gets to the positive. Okay. So if you go to the right on the y-axis, it's a positive value. If you go to the left on the y-axis, it'll take you into the negative value. All right. Okay. Next, I'm going to go on the x-axis. As you can see right now, the value of the x is 0. Now the x-axis, the x direction is forward and back movement. Okay. So right now it's 0. So if I go forward, that number is changing. It's updating. As you can see, it's going higher and higher as I move forward. Now I'm going to go backwards on the x-axis, the back direction. And as you can see, it's subtracting. Okay. And it goes into negative as far back as you move. Every time you move the character, it's going to keep subtracting and going negative because it's the negative direction on the x-axis. And it's the positive direction on the x-axis. Okay. So negative, positive on the x-axis. You got negative on the y-axis, positive on the y-axis. Now, as you can see, the z-axis hasn't changed because z represents up and down direction. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump and watch the value of the z change. I'm going to jump and you saw a change, right? So when I jump, it adds. When I come down, it subtracts. Okay. So it's the same concept for each directional value. Okay. Now, all right. That was just an example. Let's simplify this a little bit. Now I'm going to remove the set and we're going to go to the get. All right. So I have to disconnect the set. I'll plug it directly into the text block object. Now we're going to use the get variable. Okay. And like I mentioned, these two can be used independently or they can be used together. Now, the first example, I'm going to use it together to give you guys an example of what I'm talking about. So whenever you click on the get variable, all right, you have to set the value for it and you have to do it manually. If you go to your details tab and go all the way down to the bottom, you'll see default value and it has the different axes here. All right. As the z-axis, the y-axis, and the x-axis. Right now, the value for each one is set to 0. Okay. Now I can set these for you can set these values for anything you like, whether it's let's just say let's give it 44 for the x direction, say 50 for the y direction, and we'll go 70 for the z direction. Okay, so we have now set the value for the get variable vector. All right, we manually set it, clicked on it, find the default value, set it to whatever you like for whatever reason, depending on what you're using it for. Compile. Oh, 1 second. Okay, I'm gonna show you 2 ways to use the get. Okay. First, I'm going to use the set, show you that way. Yeah, I can use that as an example. All right. So the value of the get vector, which we set here, I'm going to plug that in to my set. Okay. So the value for the get is now the value for the set. And that value is going to be passed along to the text block object where it's going to display. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and do it. So remember the values I set, 44 for X, 50 for Y, and 70 for Z. So we should see 44, 50, and 70 as values when it's time to run the game. Okay? Or when we press the runtime. As you can see, guys, right here, when I move, you can see, unlike before, nothing is changing because I'm no longer monitoring the world location of this mannequin, of this character in the world space. Okay, I'm no longer monitoring. What I did was I set what I did here was I set specific values. Okay, and now those specific values are being displayed where I want them to be displayed. Okay, pretty simple. Yeah, that's one way you can use the get variable by setting a value here and just plugging this into the set, or go ahead and break that apart. On disconnect these two, and I'm going to plug straight into the text block object that I created here in the designer. Okay. So let's go back to the graph. All right, what I'm going to do, break this pen, show you guys from scratch. Now I want to take the get variable for the vector, and I'm going to plug it straight into the text block object. And what it's going to do is it's going to convert the X, Y, and Z values that I set here on the default value. It's going to take these values and pass it directly into the text block object. All right, through a converter, as you can see here. All right, so as you can see, it says converts a vector value to a localized formatted text in the form of XYZ. Okay, so all it's doing is passing the value XYZ and the numbers and the settings for it, and it's passing it along and converting it into a text format where it can be displayed here on this text block object. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and do that. And you're going to get the same value that you set here. They're going to display in the text object. Boom. Okay, same thing. The X is 44, the Y is 50, and the Z is 70. The same values you set here were just passed directly into the object that I wanted them to display in, which was the text block. Same values. Okay, pretty simple. Nothing too complex. I'll leave it there for the vector, and I'll be back.